Chapter Seconded Chapter 2 Spiders. There was a living like that for a while time, where they lived together and had some spider sex sometimes, but only when Twilight felt extra sorry for Big Mac. Spink was downstairs and crying lockers because he didn't know where Twilight went to, and Twilight wanted to go make Spike feel less bad. But she was a spider and couldn't talk! ! Twilight's belly got bigger and bigger, and she didn't know what was happening. And then Spider-Mac, Red Big, said, I think you might be getting ready to have spider babies. And Twilight said, what? And Big Mac said, yup, except for he couldn't actually make that word sound because he was a spider and doesn't have pony voice boxes anymore. Twilight was real sad and upset because spider babies were gross and creepy and weird, and she cried a little bit. But Big Mac Red Spider gave her the biggest, most happy hug ever, and said I always wanted to be a daddy. And even though I didn't want to be a spider daddy, I will try to be the best spider daddy ever and be here for you all the time, so okay? And Twilight felt the most happy, but still was not happy at the same time. Then one day, Twilight had to lay spider eggs, and then it was the most strangest. It felt like a bubble wrap bubbles being pooped out, and then she was sad and upset again. But Big Mac Spider was to her the whole time, and made her comfort. He borrowed her spider food, which was bugs, and Twilight was finally okay with eating bugs, even though she wished she could eat vegetables and mushroom. But with Spider Big Mac's help, she knew she had to eat them, in parentheses, bugs. To be alive, and being alive was more good than eating bugs was bad. So she did it, and was sad and upset because the bugs were gross. But it was okay, because she was alive. The Big Mac Spider helped her guard the eggs for many days, until one day the eggs were very big, and had dark things moving around inside of them, and Twilight knew they were babies, and she was kind of happy a little bit, and Big Mac was happy because she was happy. And then she was even happier, because Big Mac was happy, but they didn't have a spider sex. Because Big Mac knew how much Twilight didn't like that, because it felt weird, and also she didn't want to have more babies, and neither did he really. But he was ready to be the best spider daddy, so that Twilight didn't have to worry. After a few more days, the eggs started moving, and they knew that the eggs were going to hatch, because Twilight was smart, and she knew all about eggs. They watched the egg pile of eggs move around, and then they heard little baby spider clicks, and they knew it was the baby spiders, and they watched even much. The eggs all hatched simultaneously, and vast multitudes of tiny spiderlings swarmed out in a screeching horde. Twilight and Big Mac started to scuttle away as quickly as they could, but they soon found that they were in no real danger. The spiderlings had no intention of killing their parents. They witnessed a solid black mass of itchy, screaming death cover every surface of the library. Millions of spiders continued to swarm out of the eggs. The flood seemed to be endless. Spike lay curled up in his little dragon bed, moping. Things hadn't been the same since Twi's disappearance, and it had been over a week since he had any decent ideas about what to do about it. He was depressed and miserable. Suddenly, he heard a scratching, high-pitched noise coming from upstairs. His curiosity overcame his melancholy, and he plodded up to investigate. He was intercepted by a solid wall of spiderlings pouring down the stairwell, which overwhelmed him almost instantly. Spike had just enough presence of mind to scream, but doing so did nothing but allow the swarm of spiders access to his lungs and stomach. The spiderlings drained his fluids for sustenance, and Spike died in a horrible terror and agony.